Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Cruz versus Romero fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you're doing the live video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Cruz is 17-2 with 3 KOs, and Romero is 13-0-1 with 7 KOs. This fight is for the WBA World Super Bantamweight title. Cruz's last fight was a win via majority decision versus Rivas, and Romero's last fight was a no contest versus Rivas. Cruz is a southpaw. This is in Cruz's home country of Mexico. Cruz is 31 and Romero is 33 and Romero is 29. Cruz's losses have come versus Serrano in 2023 and Flores in 2016. Speak a bit more about what I've just been saying. Obviously, WBA world title on the line for this fight. It is Cruz's belt, and she is welcoming Romero as a challenger. Obviously, Cruz is coming off a win versus Rivas, in which it was a relatively close fight, and it was another well fought one where she willingly gave her all, as she always does, Cruz, and she's now becoming quite a reputable world champion. And even at 33 years of age, she's not really old. She's in probably the peak of her career right now. Romero, obviously she's coming off to no contest versus Rivas, so she hasn't fought in a little while, but she's coming off, of course, quite a bad, cut in the process, and the stoppage of the fight being a strange one because they just kept clashing heads, both of them. But in that fight, Romero was winning. She got the knockdown. She was looking quite impressive at times, a lot of the time. It was sad to not see a rematch be made for that fight, but I'm glad that Romero is getting this chance to fight on a big stage, a matchroom card, and it's going to be an entertaining fight. I can see this being fight of the night. I think it's got two styles which will definitely gel to make a very entertaining fight, and I feel like in general every fight that Cruz is in is going to be entertaining, but I think Romero is somebody who's also going to let her hands go and also be willing to perhaps be drawn into a bit of a fight and also be eager to prove. So I feel like like I said, it's going to make for a very entertaining fight. Obviously, Cruz's home country of Mexico have a lot of respect for Romero for willingly going over and taking the opportunity, but of course Cruz, the champion, she deserves to be fighting in her home country. The losses for Cruz, I mean, obviously the Flores one you can't really look too much into because that was a while ago now, but the Serrano one, it was a very tough, well fought fight. It was an amazing fight to watch, and it just shows Cruz at a world level that was, and showed that she can operate, and she didn't really look too much out of place. She did make a very tough fight for Serrano, and I feel like Cruz's entertaining style is something which is different to that of any type of women's fighter around at the moment. Perhaps bar like somebody like Serrano, who can fight like that if she wants to, but yeah, Cruz is just always going to be bringing the fire, always be bringing the smoke, I suppose, and I'm sure Romero is going to have to be prepared for that, but she's going to have to deal with that, and it's going to be intriguing to see how she does deal with that unorthodox type style. But to speak about the main event of this card, it is Hernandez versus Lugo, in which I think Hernandez will win via KO in round 6. Hernandez obviously coming off the great fight versus Foster. It was, I believe, end of last year now, so he's had a little bit of time out of the ring, and I respect that. Obviously, Foster's went and fought Nova since then, and he's retaining his title and boxing really well. Obviously, it was it wasn't too bad of a stoppage, but it was a very well fought and tough, drawn out fight, I suppose, and it's a fight which definitely probably did take a few years off of Hernandez's career, but that's just the way he fights. He's in your face. He is relentless in his work. He did tire going into the later rounds, but he was still finding success just from the sheer power that he has, and I was enjoying the angles in which he was finding early on in the fight, and the fact he was just pushing it to the pace the entire time. I think Lugo's style will gel with Hernandez's as well. It could also make for a great fight. I just don't know if Lugo has the will to be able to get through Hernandez, and Lugo's coming off the draw versus Lara, where Lara really didn't look very good, but Lugo still managed to get hurt to Lara. Obviously, Lara's known to have power, but it was just, I feel like Lugo could have done a lot more to actually have won that fight, and he just didn't seem to show anything too impressive or too crazy. It was a traditional Mexican type in-your-face style, but I feel like Hernandez does that, but does that better, and that's where I feel like he is going to be able to get that knockout win. And then to go back to the Cruz fight, speak about them both as fighters. Cruz as a fighter, the obvious things. She's got a high output. She gives her all. She's a pressure fighter. A lot of the time, she's in your face. She'll overwhelm you. She's got a good chin. She's determined in her work. Obviously, she's not always in your face. She's not always putting on the pressure, but especially going into the later round, she is very well conditioned. Obviously, she will tire from doing what she's gonna do, where she is just gonna stand and throw. But the fact that she can do that into the later rounds and give it all into the final rounds, a lot of the time that could win her the remaining couple of rounds, just because she has that will and that desire to do that. A lot of the time she's a front foot type fighter, and when she is wanting to stand and trade, she won't take a step back and won't really respect her opponents too much in that aspect. She drags her other opponents into fights just from doing what she does. She drags her into a fight in which she wants to fight. She's a high tempo type fighter a lot of the time. She she's hard to time, especially with her style, because it is just kind of throwing in front of her and ducking her head down. She's hard to time, hard to really counter, and it's hard to get in range against somebody who is just consistently throwing. And because how can you handle somebody like that? That's what I was saying. It does overwhelm you. She's of course more experienced at a higher level than that of Romero. Cruz has fought. She's an ex-world champion herself. Well, she's a current world champion plus a former world champion, because she's a two-time champion. She then obviously lost it to Serrano and then won it back again. And well, moving down in weight, she won it. If that makes sense. But yeah, so she's an experienced champion, and she's fought at a much higher level than that of Romero. And Romero, realistically, has only had that one tough top level fight against Rivas, and even then she didn't go all the rounds, and she was looking good, but she didn't go all the rounds, so she was really inexperienced compared to that of Cruz. Negatives about her, of course, she's going to be there to be hit when she's drawn into that type of a fight, and Romero does carry power in her shots, so it's going to be intriguing to see if she can get caught, if her good chin is good enough. Cruz's. She ducks her head down, she's got minimal technique a lot of the time when she's throwing them shots. They are wide punches, and you can kind of predict them if you are got that style to be able to move in and out. She's over aggressive sometimes, a lack of discipline. She kind of throws any sort of game plan out the window. Wild accuracy isn't always anything too good. Her technical ability isn't anything too crazy. Obviously, she's not consistently throwing that much the entire fight, and she does box at points in fights, but it's just the technical ability, as I don't think is too crazy. Defensive movement, nothing too much. The lack of power realistic in her shots isn't really anything too much. She's quite uncontrolled. She can get hit in the breaks. If she is just letting her hands go, she will then have to stop at some point to then be able to somewhat catch her breath, and then she can get hit in the breaks from doing that, because she does have a low guard and just is willingly tired and defensively weak at that point, and then she is able to get hit. Romero is a fighter. She's also going to want the centre of the ring, so it's going to be a battle of who's going to want the centre more, and it's going to be intriguing to see who that will be who wins it. She moves well. She's got solid feint. She's got a high guard, and I feel like she's going to have a high guard against Cruz. She's willing to let her hands go as well. I would say she's probably got the faster hands than that of Cruz. She can be explosive in her work and can box in the middle in close range, possibly better in close than that of Cruz, who does box best in my opinion at a mid range. Can be a little bit messy and close. She hits with power, like I say, she goes to the body quite well. She has got solid counters and relatively well timed at points. Her accuracy isn't anything too crazy, but she does have relatively good timing, and she did time Rivas with a very nice shot in their fight. Negatives about her, she's coming off a no contest, and so it's going to be interesting to see if that's actually caused any sort of damage or not, the injury that she did suffer from that. Against physical pressure, I feel like she can struggle a little bit, and Cruz is going to be probably the most, maybe not physical, but the most pressure she's had to have dealt with. She keeps her head on the line quite a lot. She can go back in a straight line, and if she's just getting walked down by Cruz, going straight backwards isn't always the best. Her uncontrolled footwork a little bit at times, I think she can be a little bit bouncy on her feet, and Cruz plants her feet, and I just don't necessarily know if the footwork of Romero's quite good enough. She's got quite wide hooks as well. Fully committing to them wide hooks, she doesn't always do, but when she does it, it is wide and it is quite predictable. She doesn't find the range the best of her jab, I don't think. She can be a little bit reckless when she is on the back foot, and that's when she was just coming in with her head a bit against Rivas, and it wasn't really necessarily the cleanest or nicest thing to be seeing. and actually then handling pressure, how she deals with that. She's explosive, but if she's just coming in with her head and just throwing a couple wild shots, it's not really doing anything. Cruz is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Cruz will win via split decision. I don't often say split decisions, but I feel like this fight has the makings to most definitely be one. I think it's going to be a great contest, probably a back and forth one, but I feel like Ramirez could be winning the early rounds, and then Cruz going into the later rounds be able to thrive a bit better and then be able to get the nod on the night. And then who she could go on to fight, probably would love to see a rematch. I feel like this fight has all the makings to be made again and to be fought for again, and we'll have to wait and see. If not, Scotney, I know Cruz called out Scotney after the Rivas fight, and obviously Scotney's now IBF and WO champion, so that could make for a good fight. Or Motu is somebody who I'm just really wanting to see. I'm really campaigning to see her in a big fight. I feel like she definitely deserves it. Of course, 19-0 now. She's IBO champion, and I do feel like very much deserves a big shot, but I suppose she's just gonna keep going until eventually she gets that. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, do like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.